So your resume, if you were using planetary influences, again, this is a mercurial document. You know, it's your curriculum vitae. This is where I work. This is what I did. Now, say you're 1 in 800 people. You reduce your chances by working on a cover letter, because only 40% of people apply for a job with a cover letter, which is remarkably low to me. But and some people truly don't want a cover letter. But your cover letter is not Mercury. Your cover letter is Venus, because your cover letter doesn't say, "This is where I work. This is what I've done." Your cover letter says, "One of these places, let me explain this one part of my resume, because what I did was amazing, and this is why you want to hire me, because I am the type of person who can open a new bank branch. I am the type of person who can, take over X department in decline and turn around. I am the type of person who increased sales by 400%. Whatever it is, you flip that around and you tell the story of it. This is your love letter. This is to make your employer fall in love with you. So you consecrate that to Venus, and again, you put that master copy on your Venusian altar, like Venus altar. You call Aphrodite, or just really whoever you want to influence. Or you just, you send it out with that vine. It doesn't have to be, calling upon a specific being. You can imbue something directly, because you yourself are a spiritual power. And then, hopefully this gets you down to the interview, and then you get to the interview, and then there are ways to mojo up the interview, like I've said, different ways of using eye contact, words. And these are both mundane and magical. If you know NLP, you can use a little bit of NLP that borders on magic. And in the Sorcerer's Secrets, I have a whole chapter on how to use embedded commands, but also see them emanating from parts of the body, which is a trick I learned in Tibet with mantras. So it's all kind of more complicated than we have time for. What time are we wrapping?
We need to be out of here by 4. We'll need about 10 minutes to.
All right, so I'll stop in 15, and then we'll do questions and stuff.
That's great.
All right, so yeah, we don't want to get too wrapped up in minutia. So then, after your interview, you do something that only 4% of applicants do.
Yeah.
You send a physical thank you letter. And again, Venus, it's there to ingratiate yourself. I know somebody who her husband works for, it's the other way around. She works for a company. She wanted her husband to get a job with said company. He applied. He got interviewed. They waited. They waited for 2 or 3 weeks. Finally, the hiring manager came to her and said, "So I had this interview with your husband, and I'd love to hire him. I never got a thank you letter." He knows somebody at the company. They are ready to hire him. They were offended that they did not get a thank you letter after the interview. Yet only 4% of people send them. And again, dealing with the economy these days, it's a numbers game. I mean, if you want to attend, Gordon from Rune Soup was saying that, he went to a bar in New York that was having, open interview or audition for bartenders. And the place was packed. He said, "I thought in your book you were exaggerating about there being 600 people for every professional position." He's like, "You're not exaggerating. There were easily people poured out in the street for one position." Just crazy. So that's what I mean by breaking the goal down and using macro enchantment as the overall guiding. This is the goal, help me steer, and then micro enchantment. Okay, this is the next step, ping it with magic. This is the next step, ping it with magic. This is the next step, ping it with magic. Does everybody understand the micro enchantment, macro enchantment principle? That is super key, because magic is not science. Magic can fail. magic doesn't always manifest the way we want it to. So we improve our chances a great deal if we have something important and we approach it from multiple angles. Now, there are those people who I know that are complete skeptics about magic, and they'll say, well, if you're doing all the things that you need to do to get a job anyway, how do you even know if the magic worked? I don't care! I'm long past that, kids. I'm not, I'm not wondering, doing a paranormal show, or I wonder if ghosts are real, let's find out. For me, I know that magic works. I've seen enough weird stuff. I don't need more weird stuff. I want practical stuff that works. And at the end of the day, if I can't isolate whether it was the magic that did it or a well-written resume that did it, I just don't care. You got the job. You opened the business. You made a successful retirement. Whatever it is, that's what you're going for, not to tickle yourself with weird vibes.
But I've been told over and over again, the last part of the spell is act in accordance on the material plane. So I'm supposed to be doing all those mundane things anyway.
You are supposed to be doing all these mundane things anyway. So, Louis Martinet has a saying that I use a lot, and it's first comes the working, then comes the work. And so the only thing that I've done is to change that to be, well, no, the working and the work have to coincide together, step by step, hand in hand, the whole way. It's not a one then the other. So that's really the only big difference.
Sometimes you can't really do all these things. What if you're a person that just have a high school diploma, you want a professional job, or you want to sort of income? I mean, you can even go through all these so-called moving things, and it's not going to produce anything.
Well,
it's really realistic. And then this whole thing about, you have to do these things versus, I guess, being submissive or waiting for spirit to step in. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that, because most people do sit around and you're guided by intuition.
They sit around and they're guided by their intuition, but or their spiritual influences, and that's fine. That type of guidance is great. What I mean by getting bossed around is, I mean, don't turn it over to them. Don't just say, I will do whatever you want me to do, and I have no input. You bring up a great example. A person who has a high school diploma who wants a professional job. Like I said earlier, in the 90s, these were easy to come by. If you had a high school diploma and you could operate a computer, you get a professional job.
You could start a .com.
You can still start, you can always start your own business.
Right.
That's one great thing about entrepreneurial. I think some ridiculous amount of billionaires in the country don't have college degrees. Yeah. Neither Steve Jobs nor Bill Gates have a college degree. People that get out of prison, I always say, you can't find a job, start a business. You don't have to fill out that application that says I committed a felony. Yes, the business might fail, but it's better to try and fail than do nothing. But the point that you're bringing up is a really good one. You're in a tight spot. But rather than just saying, okay, Lord or Goddess or whoever, I'm just going to follow what you said in my path. What I'm saying is, give me the strength to start looking for a way to get what I want. So, how does somebody get what they want in that position? Well, long term, they have to solve the degree problem. Thankfully, we live in a world, although we have unprecedented obstacles, we also have unprecedented opportunities. We have ways of getting certified for things very quickly. And if you're smart and you have anybody that can help you, including charities that you can just go to and they'll help you find the money to pay for things. If you're on unemployment, you can get unemployment to pay for certifications like project management certifications. Mm-hmm. for truck driving certifications, which to me, if it pays well, it doesn't have to be a desk job. A lot of the wealthy people that I know, like that have retirement in the bag, they're plumbers and electricians and things like that. There's a lot of people I know who work, have the I shower, in the morning before work jobs who, their finances are a disaster. A few people that, have to use their hands every day that, actually have their finances, all their ducks in a row. But there are ways to get certified for things in the short term. Then you can take advantage of things like Thomas Edison. In New Jersey, we're lucky enough to have a real online school, not that's actually regionally accredited, not like these things you see commercials for, but national accreditation, which is not ideal. But even then, like, you do what you can do. I know, in New Jersey we have a sheriff that was just fired for having a degree from a diploma. One of these places you pay like $600 for a life experience degree. They basically provide you a degree, and it's a bachelor's, and they take your money. But you know what? It'll get you in the door some places. So if you're absolutely against the wall, cannot find meaningful work, I don't blame people that take advantage of that. If they, in this world, people are up to, cheat you this way and that. If you have to resort to what Gordon would say, a black hat technique to get your foot in the door, then get a real degree, for God's sake, so that when it comes time, when you're going for something where people are really scrutinizing you, you have something solid. But, you do what you do to get the foot in the door. And again, the interpersonal thing. Everybody knows people. Those people know people. There are ways. In the book I talk about, if you don't have enough money for a wardrobe, there are charities that will provide you with a suit or appropriate business attire to go on interviews for. There are ways. But
looking for those ways.
Right.
Begin there.
You're, rather than just turning it over, you're saying, I'm just going to do what you show me. You're saying, show me what to do and help me look. In other words, my reason, my discernment is important. My reason and discernment is important as a spiritual being. I'm going to exercise it with whatever spiritual power you're working. You know what I mean? Do you understand?
Yeah, but that also, I guess, what I thought wasn't practical. It's like, I wouldn't even know where to begin with the steps. Like, I wouldn't know where was Jupiter and Venus and how all that fit in.
Well, the magical tech aspect of it is something that you can these days learn on the internet or learn from books. In my book I give, for people that, most people I assume that pick up my books, it's not their first book on magic. But if it is, I give, if you need a better background on the basics, I always give examples in the book of other books to learn from. It's like anything else. If you're interested in magic, these days you go online and Google is your friend.
Can I make a suggestion to the young lady?
Yeah.
Since the magic tech that you don't know where to begin, might I suggest to visit Enchantments down on East 9th Street. They are extremely talented young people who are witches.
Yeah.
And they are very happy to share knowledge, especially if you're a beginner. They'll talk to you about color, they'll talk to you, colors, and who to invoke, and if you care to, they could carve a candle for you to start you on your journey, or not, but they can point out the different little bits of ingredients that you might take home and do yourself, if you feel for that. But within a certain limits, you can pick their brains to some degree. Enchantments, East 9th Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
What avenue is that?
They're between A and First now. They were there, then they had to go there. So they've got a bigger store now. Between A and First.
Also on Lady Rhea's book. Her book
Or
just
Lady
came out.
Rhea's book.
Yeah,
Yes.
Lady Rhea
Has a-
she's up in Originals in the Bronx.
The
It's a
primer.
gem.
Yeah.
The primer.
Yeah.
Or in 2 weeks, show up for a Painting Prime Day and talk to
Rhea.
people there.
Rhea.
Maria.
R-H.
RHEA.
Yeah.
She did the original Botanica.
Yeah, she was the
Yeah.
first.
You can tell her I sent you. Rhea and I are friends.
My high priestess.
You mentioned before invoking angels, guides, I think, and demons. Why would anybody want to trust a demon?
That's a very good question. Well, you know what? It's a very good question.
No, actually, my mother was especially influenced by Zoroastrianism, and I would wonder why, anybody would want to invoke a demon.
It's a very good question, and there are a number of different answers. For some people, the dualist view of the spiritual world is a fallacy. So that dualism that comes ultimately from Zoroastrianism, they would say that's a fallacy, that the angels and demons things is arbitrary, that the gods of the religion that we don't like become demons, and the gods of the religions that we do like become angels, and that's the way it goes. Working with demons is not really fundamentally different, and if I have a problem with the Christian church, I might be better off dealing with demons. And in many cases, you can look at the demons, and for that matter, the angels of the Christian tradition and the grimoire tradition, and trace them back to Canaanite, Phoenician, Babylonian, and so on gods. Astaroth, for instance, a very popular demon that appears in several grimoires, can be traced right back to the goddess Astarte.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is that if she's Astarte, you're still going to get a different result if you approach Astarte as a pagan and say, Astarte, wise goddess, etc., help me out, versus I am going to draw a circle, force you into a triangle. By the name of the Lord Jehovah, Staroth, you are bound, and if you don't do exactly what I say, I'm going to burn your seal, and so on and so forth. Well, then it's like jacking somebody up against a wall and forcing them to do what you want. You might get them to do what you want, but they're, somebody doing something under duress and somebody doing something because they like you can be done too.
Jason, before we continue with questions and answers, I have a macro and a micro point to make. Macro, the ongoing vision of Gnostic NYC is to continue to present excellent speakers and lectures and workshops like this, and eventually to be in our own space where we can have things every day. The micro part of this is raising money to pay the rent for this space every week. And Emlyn has a basket, if you can, and help us with the expenses. She's gonna bring that around as we continue the discussion. But I would be remiss, particularly at this workshop, not to bring this up.
Very, very important.
I wanted to make a point. I was reading about King Solomon, how he called up the demons to build the temple of God. And the one thing that they had said, I'm not saying this is true, but this is one of the reasons, is that you call on the demons to do the work rather than the angels, because the angels will only work for God, and the demons will work for man.
Well, see, that's another aspect.
If you could control
this is
it.
another viewpoint of it.
Yeah.
There's a viewpoint where the demons are there, the demons are amok, the demons are in fact, if not evil, we'll call them wild spirits, soccer hooligans of the spiritual world. And what you're doing by putting them to meaningful work is actually taking your place in the spiritual hierarchy where God, angels, humans, and now you're shining, giving them access to that light by allowing it to pass through you and giving them work to do, just as spiritual beings give you work. So that's another view that people take. Other views that people take are that demons are simply sublunary spirits. So they are spirits that are more connected to the material plane than higher spiritual planes. Therefore, they are more fast acting. They will give you what you want without, worrying about what you need in a spiritual sense, which may be good, may be bad. But they don't think in terms of millennia, or they think in terms of the here and now much more like we do. So they're closer. So there's a lot of reasons that people might work with demons. There's a lot of reasons that classical grimoires were written, the medieval and Renaissance period, that invoke demons. Most of them, however, are not written from a satanic perspective. Almost all of them are written from a Catholic perspective, from, this is to be done by a priest or something like that.
I fully differentiate between Wiccan and Satanic, so that's not the issue. The issue is I knew a person who many years ago in college got involved in this, and he was very psychic, and he became literally possessed, and it drove them into another form of demon possession, which is to be baptized as a Christian fundamentalist. But that's another. So my thing on this is not from a Christian perspective at all, is that most psychic researchers will say that there are some things out there that should not be, that are against the human race. Why would it? I understand, like in Jung talks about the shadow, which can be used. It's part of, but that's not the same thing as demon. Right?
No.
But Wiccan with pentagram up and pentagram down, I understand it completely.
Even then, pentagram, the reverse pentagram is a second degree sign.
Exactly. There's no a sign.
Right. But, it's, what I'm getting at is that there are different views of it. And as far as like wild spirits or spirits that are harmful, people talk about demons all the time, and people think like fairy and nature spirits sounds all fluffy. You want to talk about a group of spirits pissed off at us.
Yeah.
Nature spirits. And when you go to traditional cultures, a good deal of traditional medicine is done to facilitate life between and existence between humans and the way that we live and beings that are essentially nature spirits. In Nepal, they talk about mamos that get angered from burning garbage outside, and nagas that get angered from polluted streams, and bathing in sacred spots, and zay that get upset by electricity and things like this. So, or get excited, I should say, by electricity, and jalpos that are attracted by anger and things like this. So, to take it out of that dualistic, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, pew, 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 heavenly war kind of way, there is just sort of this, well, we live in sort of a, all beings have a certain impact on their environment, and the impact, is never just on ourselves. No man is an island, we don't all live in bubbles. Everybody impacts and influences each other, as I've said before. Does anybody, we have now officially entered the question and answer.
As we can you just say, just so we have it, where we can find you and what people need to know about you?
Well, I'm right here. No. I'm going to hand these out. Strategic Sorcery is what you want to Google.
They already have.
My website is innominandum.com. I'm going to change that soon, Strategic Sorcery. Innominandum is sort of my writing name, my professional name, because there are famous Jason Millers that are, there's Jason Miller, the actor and playwright who was in The Exorcist, and then there's Jason Miller, the MMA fighter. So Jason Miller, the occultist, no matter how well my book sells, is always going to come lower on a Google search. So Innominandum is the magical name that I had used for decades, and it's just not very easy to spell. So now that I'm doing interviews and giving talks and things like this, I say, oh, nomen animal, how do you spell it? Here it is. But you can Google strategic sorcery and you'll find it. Don't worry about it. So, as I mentioned, I have financial sorcery. I have the Sorcerer's Secrets, which is more a book of magical techniques. It's a field guide to practical magic overall. Not necessarily designed to be somebody's first experience in magic, but definitely their second or third. And I'm also the author of the Strategic Sorcery Training Course, which is a year-long course done entirely through email. And then my first book is Protection and Reversal Magic, which is not a bad first book, since knowing how to protect yourself once you've set on the path is probably the first thing you should learn how to do. So that is me and who I am, and you can find me at inominandum@gmail.com. That's INOMINANDUM. We have 15 minutes left. Do you have any questions? Q&A?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
How much, you mentioned that you just have a family, what have you. How much is that, society tends to put pressure on you to become a protector and provider for your family.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that more of a motivation for you to pursue this path of writing books? Because you have your children, you have to provide for them, you have to protect them, that's the situation.
Well, all occult authors are fabulously wealthy. No, I'm kidding. Writing occult books is not the path to riches. I'll say that. So you do it, primarily you do it because you do magic because you love it and you feel called to it. You teach it because people start asking you to teach it, and you feel called to answer their requests. I didn't become a magical teacher because I set out from the beginning, I want to teach magic, so I better learn it. Some people these days are in fact doing that. It blows my mind. Why? You do it because you want to do it, not because you want to become a master of teaching it. And then you make a business out of it, partially because when you have a family to support and so on, if it's not earning money, it's losing money. And that's true of anything. If you have a group like Gnostic NYC, if it's not earning money, it's losing money. There is no breaking even, really. Am I wrong?
Absolutely.
You can't perfectly balance the budget. You have to have a business plan for it to earn money or lose money. So money is also connected with time. When you have a family and so on and so forth, it's one thing to say, I'm going to trot off to New York for the day, or off to here for a few days to teach, or to do some kind of magic project. See you later, hon. Have fun taking care of the toddlers. But it is another thing to say, this is part of our business model as a family. So it is a big part of it.
Also, being in a relationship, you're living with someone, and sometimes you're living with someone, and they may not be into magic, and it's a problem. Sometimes you get, I'm fortunate that my wife is tolerant, because she's pretty much similar to what I'm into.
But
how do you deal with that? Because society puts a kind of a negative slant on occultism, and it could be very difficult.
Well, if you have, my wife is not a magical practitioner. I would say she's psychic as heck, but she's respectful of what I do, and that's really all that I, wanted as far as that goes. I didn't, require somebody who is into it as well. Some people would. Some people feel that their partner needs to be a partner in their magic as well. Some people don't. I would say if you're with somebody and you feel strongly called towards occultism or fringe religion, some people, it's not even like as weird as we do. I know some people who are just Catholics of a contemplative bent. They like Richard Rohr or Carl McColman or something like that. Two Catholic authors who write about contemplative tradition of the Catholic. Richard Rohr is a Benedictine priest. But there are people, their wives are hardcore conservative Catholics, and that's mysticism. Evil. He should be excommunicated. And it's a problem. But that's something that always has to be worked out between two people. There's no cookie cutter answer for that one.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the glyphs that are in your book? I own the book already, and the glyphs are beautiful, from an art point of view. But the uncrossing one, which happened to appear on Gordon's Rune Soup a week or two or a month before your book was published, I started doodling it while I was reading him, and it just got left around the house because I doodled it 4 or 5 times. Quite interesting. Just bunches of nonsense.
Well,
wow.
What she's talking about are the lightning glyphs.
The lightning glyphs, yeah.
Now, as I was writing this book, I was invoking Jupiter fairly heavily, and I'm part of a group called the Gentlemen for Jupiter, who works this Jupiterian current. And as I was writing the book, I was in communication with Jupiter and had asked for him to convey some magic that could be used that would be of benefit to people that read the book. So he conveyed an invocation of 4 goddesses, as you know. And then he said, well, there's this thing that comes through, but you have to get your friend Matt. Because I'm not an artist, and Matt Brownlee is my best friend, and he's a tattoo artist in the Philadelphia area. It's in Media, PA. And he did the specialized planetary seals in the Sorcerer's Secrets. And of course, he did the Jupiter seal on the cover of this book, the specialized seal. So Jupiter said, I have these glyphs I want to communicate to you, but you can't draw, dude. So Matt came over, and Matt is also a magician. So we sat down in the living room, and I invoked Jupiter, and all of a sudden it was just, it just came really fast and really furious. And it was all very casual, too. It wasn't, there was no circle, we weren't in robes or anything like that, and we did the invocation in my living room, and both of us could sort of see the place the air just becoming really heavy, and I get to a point where I can't even see across the room. But we would get this, okay, the next one is for reversing bad luck. And he would just instantly, whip it off. All 16 glyphs were done in this, and a few others that are remaining hidden, were whipped off within the span of an hour. Less than an hour. It was all just lightning fast. And, I started releasing the bits almost immediately to some people. So people had been using them in business and for promoting different things like the viral glyph and so on, and getting good results back. Because I have a rule, I try never to put anything in a book that either I haven't experimented with or other people haven't experimented with. And so,